Every melody has been copywritten already. This video has actually been sent to me by a subscriber. Wow. Adam Neely. Pretty sure he went to Berkeley. And there's a chance he was even there when I was there. I'm not really sure. I don't know. Doesn't really matter. I don't know the guy. I've never met him. Haven't talked to him. Don't know. I know who he is. He's got a lot of subs on YouTube. He makes very interesting music videos, right? Videos on music. Very cool. Definitely, if you're not subscribed already, as you can see, I already am. I have been. Very smart guy. I have not seen this video. I don't know what's going on with it. Every melody has been copyrighted and they're on this hard drive. Okay, a very concerned subscriber sent this to me. They're concerned that every melody has been copyrighted. I'm kind of like, even if they have been, what does that really mean about it? And like the value of it and just writing and just the legality of it, just all of it. It kind of seems, I don't know, it seems insane. No one would write music anymore. Well, that's actually not accurate. Let's just get into the video. I'm going to shut up. I'm an idiot. Let's get into this video, see what's going on.
This has the entirety of almost everything. So this is 2.6 terabytes and compressed
That's
in a
it.
tarball.
So are they saved as MIDI or are they saved as...
Saved as MIDI.
Okay, so recently I saw a TED Talk where a couple of guys seem to have generated every possible melody, or at least every melody that might be sued over in a court of law. And by saving those melodies to a hard drive, they have affixed them to a physical medium, which is all that's necessary to copyright them. In other words, in theory anyway, they have copyrighted every possible melody. Very interesting. I recently got a chance to sit down with them and talk about how they did it and why they did it.
I'm Damien Reel. I'm a lawyer. Been a lawyer since 2002.
Jeez.
I've also been coding since 1985. Also a musician. I have a bachelor's in science in music education.
My name is Noah Rubin, and I'm Damien's collaborator on this project.
So Noah and I were on a cybersecurity engagement. We were talking about this idea of brute forcing music, and I said, Noah, do you think you might be able to brute force, much like a password? Could you also brute force melodies? He's like, yeah, that's a relatively easy technical problem.
We were having drinks one night. He was like, you know, we had talked about this a little bit a while ago. Like, do you really think we could do this? I was like, yeah, cool. That sounds fun. I'll give it a shot.
So in order to brute force a password, you'd use a computer to go through every single permutation of characters possible.
And if
in
you're
order to
songwriting,
brute force
this is something,
copyright,
this is a
do the same
way
thing.
of doing
use a
it,
computer
right?
to generate every single permutation of notes.
The original requirements I had is to say, let's do the entire keyboard from the lowest note all the way to the highest note. Also, every rhythmic
it's just
variation.
so many permutations.
We went
That's the
through
thing. It's
a
like
number of different parameters.
almost infinite.
And then we started doing the math and figured out that our original goal of brute forcing all possible melodies is not feasible given the compute infrastructure that we had at the time, which was none, except for the laptop I'm FaceTiming you.
So in order to figure out how many melodies we might generate, you're going to take the total number of pitch classes involved and set that to the power of how many notes you want in your melody.
So if you went, 10 notes,
pitch classes,
you probably 88 to the 10 probably would get you to as many sands of the earth that you would have.
Yeah, it's a very large number, as people in the comment section of the TED Talk were very keen to point out. And that's just with our 12-tone system, never mind alternative tuning systems or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be able to.
Do we really need the entire keyboard? No, you probably don't need the entire keyboard because how many melodies span that much?
I mean,
so you're not going to have a melody
could.
that's 3 octaves wide, for example. You're probably going to have something that's singable that's maybe 2 octaves. We did the math on the 2 octaves and we thought, yeah, that would probably take too long for our proof of concept to be able to do. So we settled ultimately in 1 octave.
They're settling on proof of concept now.
8, and then knowing that a lot of melodies start on the tonic and end on the tonic, whether it's the top tonic or the bottom tonic.
I guess
so we didn't want to do 7, we wanted to do 8.
We arrived at all quarter notes, 8 notes in middle C, because that's where most popular music is made. And then the length 12 that's what's feasible given the compute that we have. We generated length 12 melodies with those 8 notes in middle C, which comes out to 68.7 billion melodies. And we did that in about 6 days. That was the runtime.
There's a video that Vsauce made about 8 years ago asking the question, will we ever run out of new music? They came up with a figure of 78 billion 8-note melodies that span 1 octave.
8-note melodies. What about 6-note melodies? What about 12-note melodies?
It suggested that it would take 248 years to exhaust
I mean?
this. It seems like this is fairly moot point. It already has been exhausted.
Lots of copyright scholars, and I know lots of copyright professors, including some at Cornell and Stanford and otherwise. They've said that this has been a concept that has been discussed conceptually, but never in practice. No one's actually brute forced in this way. What I did find is Peter Berkhamshire, that I mentioned in the TED Talk, he's brute forced chords in the major and minor scales. So I know that he did that in 2017.
Now, is that relevant for copyright law? Because from my understanding, chords are not copyrightable.
I would argue that too. I mean, but with the courts have gone these days, it's hard to say that definitively. If groove, under the Marvin Gaye case, if groove is copyrightable, it's even more out there than a chord being copyrightable.
Now, this is interesting. We now have a data set of every possible melody of 12 notes in a major key that span groove, 1 octave. But
how can you
it seems to me
groove?
like there's a lot of
that.
stuff
That's
missing from this. For example, they didn't really consider rhythm at all.
To what extent does the rhythm actually matter versus the changing in pitch?
Matter.
Is the change in pitch really the nature, the DNA of what makes a melody, in its essence, a melody?
No, where it lands also matters.
If you were to say, "Won't you stay with me?" And if I represented Sam Smith, I'd be like, same song.
Okay, I guess that's a fair point if you're arguing this in a court of law. Maybe they are the same melody, I don't know. But what about minor keys? And what about melodies that use non-diatonic tones? Or melodies
they're not
which
the same
span
melody.
more
That's
than
insane.
1 octave?
Fair to say is that we were solving for the average case, right? So the legal argument we're making and the larger point about society isn't beholden to the fact that we generated this finite data set. We did this with a single server. We've given people the tool to do the same, and it doesn't change the argument that melodies are mathematic.
This is interesting to me because if
these are just total nerds, taking all the fun, all the emotion, right, out of all of this. This is no different than like bankers and investment bankers and like finance people just like crunching numbers and rounding the decimal points, the decimal places off into their bank account shit. It's just like it's like Loserville stuff to me. I'm just like, this is just because we can type of deal. It's like it's like evil genius scientist type of deal. It's like, all right, we've copyright and it's all on this little box right here. It's like, are you like, get the fuck out of here? These are the people that get their asses beat. That's my opinion. And I mean, I don't condone beating people's asses. I don't, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, yo, what? Like, get out of here. Get out of here. You're ruining everything.
All copyrightable melodies are simply simple permutations of parameters, then why should any one person own one permutation over another? In other words, nobody can own a number. It's basically all it is. So why should any one person own a melody?
There are only 243 combinations of 3 notes by 5 notes. Do we want to give any one person that happens upon one of those 243 a monopoly for 95 years? Actually, I take that back. Life of the author plus 95 years.
It's more than just a melody. It's a song. Like you may not, obviously a song has a melody, right? But a song is usually kind of a collection of, it kind of depends on how you break it up. Are you breaking it up into musical phrases, or are you considering like, okay, the verse a melody or the chorus and the chorus a melody, or like, like all that kind of thing. It's very detailed, right? It's very, it's not black and white, really is what it is. It's not completely black and white.
Or something that there are only 243 of in the history of time. For us as a society to give that person a monopoly on that one thing, we have to be pretty sure that that's not going to be to the detriment of everyone else. And we have to know as a society that it's important.
I know that's not normally how people are thinking about melodies and how they might write melodies, but if music is a shared language, owning that granular a piece of the language, I think is equally as ridiculous.
The biggest thing I wanted to, and I hope I got through in the TED Talk, is that I'm not a megalomaniac, and Noah's not a megalomaniac that wants to take over copyright and be able to essentially thrust down your throat, I own copyright, so screw you. The exact opposite is true.
Yeah,
I'm doing this as a means to an end, which is to not have targets on the back of every small musician that could get shaken down by a larger musician that says, hey, your song sounds like my song. If you as a small...
That's not... Is that normally the way that it goes, or is it usually the other way around? I mean, and maybe that's not accurate. I don't know, because usually the cases that you hear is that somebody came after some bigger artist or bigger song. Some smaller person came after some bigger song, right? Whether that's Led Zeppelin or Marvin Gaye, right? That whole Ed Sheeran, although they're, you would say, you know, similar levels type of deal. But you get what I'm saying. It's like, usually, at least from what you hear, right? And again, this is where I don't know of any of the cases where some bigger artist went after some smaller artist in that type of way, where it's like really a smaller artist. Marvin Gaye going after Ed Sheeran, again, I'm putting them basically on the same level. You know, semantics, right? You get what I'm saying. I don't know. And then there's the whole thing of like, if it's a smaller artist going after a bigger artist with a song, there has to be some kind of proof that they heard the song before, right? All right. Isn't that part of the thing? You can't just be like, you know, well, yeah, no different than these melodies. It's like, I don't even know what's on your hard drive. I've never heard them before. So how can you come after me for what's on your hard drive? I've never heard them. Right? That's like part of it.
Smaller musician have never heard that larger musician's song, you're right now in an untenable position.
Right.
I'm a musician. I should be able to make my music and not have to worry about some song I heard 20 years ago, maybe. I think the idea of independent creation is important, and it's a bit under attack.
What do we as musicians want to be able to mark as our territory, that this is my creative thing that I put out into the world, and I don't want anybody else in the world to be able to do this creative thing I've done? All the things that we as musicians love about music is not the sequence of pitches.
And yet, in recent court cases, it seems like the sequence of pitches has actually mattered quite a lot to judges and juries determining whether or not one song has infringed on another song's copyright. Melodies aren't the only thing that matter, though, in these cases. Another important thing to consider is the question of access. Whether or not one artist heard the other artist's
That's what I'm saying, right? That's
entirely possible that
sense.
they didn't.
Under the copyright law, theoretically at least, you could independently come up with a melody, and I could independently come up with the same melody, and under the law, at least in theory, we can both independently create the same thing, and we could both have rights to that thing.
So where does that leave this data set that Noah and Damien have created of every possible melody?
So we're putting everything up on archive.org. It's freely available to anybody.
We put everything in the public domain, including both the data set and the program, in a way to be able to be both transparent and to be able to let other people do what we're doing.
I'd like to also focus on getting people to realize that this stuff is freely available. And once we do so, establish some sort of demand, I would love to just continue to keep this running, and at a certain point have a more sizable set of melodies.
In the infamous Katy Perry versus Flame lawsuit, where she was sued for her song Dark Horse's resemblance to Flame's song Joyful Noise, the jury found that she had access to Joyful Noise, even though she testified that she had never heard the song before in her life. The jury didn't believe that Katy Perry independently created Dark Horse without ever hearing Joyful Noise. The rationale provided for this is that the music video for Joyful Noise had, at the time, 3 million views on YouTube. In other words, that seems to be the threshold for determining access. 3 million views on YouTube. So, where I'm headed with this, if the combined view count of this video and Damien's TED Talk exceeds 3 million views, maybe that's enough for establishing access.
Which
and since all of the melodies and the tools for creating all of the melodies are public domain, maybe, just maybe, any melody written after today will have to prove that they didn't have access to this video, which is incredibly difficult to do. I don't know, the whole system's screwed anyway, so why not just approach it this way, like kind of a troll strategy? As a musician, I don't feel particularly protected under copyright law. A troll strategy? I feel rather threatened, in fact. And so throwing a wrench in the whole process through this whole generative melody thing, I think ultimately is a good thing for the craft of musical composition.
By framing the issue this way, by saying there are only so many notes, here they are here, that TED Talk might actually make its way to judges that then might be able to decide the access thing in a better way.
Also, to anybody who is a lawyer in the space listening, which I really hope they are, please, please, please take this argument, if you believe in it, and give it a shot. I think that's the most important thing.
Huh. All right, there it is. Wow. Well, this is interesting. I mean, ultimately, I think just make music and don't worry about it. You know, just make music and don't worry about it. We just recently did The Cure, right? And Friday I'm in Love. And he was Robert Smith was running around like, because he thought that he just, I said in the video, like, the song just wrote itself. It's a song that just came out and wrote itself. I've written songs like that where I feel like this song just wrote itself, and it's very kind of in its own way basic and simple and sounds almost common or something. Yeah, just like it wrote itself. And some songs are like that. And it doesn't mean that it's been written before. It doesn't. And yeah, he was running around trying to figure out, where did I get this? Where did I get this? Where did I get this? And yes, of course, there are tons of times where I'm listening to something on here and I'm like, oh, this sounds like this song, or this reminds me of this artist or this song. And just coming out with songs or trying to figure out, oh, what was this melody to? Just like this like little snippet of the melody. Right? This is like this is this cadence. And that's the thing. There's so much more. To not have rhythm as part of it, to me, is a major oversight. Like, rhythm to your melody does matter. If you have a sequence of notes and you put different rhythm to it, it's not the same melody to me. Like, it's not. Obviously, the more different they are, you know, like, if you just like change one note by like an eighth note or something like that, then that might not be that big of a difference. But you know what I'm saying? Like, that putting a different rhythm to a sequence of notes can make a major difference. And in terms of what your ear hears in hearing that melody as being the same or different. Now, they could, like I'm saying, you can make that sound much more similar if the nuance is small, or you can make it way different if you know, you're taking some kind of eighth note type melody and you're elongating it. You're going to interpret it completely differently. And we're not even talking about putting the harmony behind it, right? Which, yes, they're saying harmony is not copyrightable. Got it. Right. But I don't know. I think just write your music and put it out and don't worry about it. And if something comes up because you got you wrote a hit song or something like that, then just good on. That's a good problem to have, right? I mean, instead of just writing something and never having a hit song or something, right? I mean, I don't know. You know, I'm at the point of ridiculousness now, but I'm just like, it's too much. I don't know. It's interesting. I get it. There's only so many notes, particularly in the Western system, right? In the system that we have or whatever, right? You go into quarter tones and all that kind of just like insane stuff, right? Okay, fine. Can expand it infinitely, but I just wouldn't worry about it at all. And yeah, just to think that rhythm isn't part of it is bonkers. That's like bonkers to me. Like, yeah, rhythm totally matters. And I would say that the Marvin Gaye case brings that up completely, because that all had to do, like, if you're talking about copyright of the groove and the feel, that's rhythm. Like, that's rhythm. I don't know. It's interesting, but overall, I still kind of lean towards these guys are nerds. These guys are nerds. They're trying to like be nerdy, but also not have a target on their back, right? How they're saying it's just like, yeah, like we did this nerdy thing. We were drinking beers and did this nerdy thing and thought of it. But, you know, we're not trying to be enemy number one or anything like that. We still want you guys to like us. We just did this nerdy thing. It's cool. It's whatever. It's whatever. I'm picking on him. Just don't worry about it. Write your music and relax, have fun. It's a release. The songwriting is a release, right? For songwriters, right? Well, I mean, you know, at least to begin with. Then it becomes a craft. Then it becomes like you just have to do it in order to make money and all that kind of thing. Nobody makes money from songwriting nowadays anyways. It's like, it's been, that's a different discussion. All right. Thank you guys.